Okay, if we start with the really basics, this element of the assignment, we're looking at how does the organisation manage people. So for example, the core at Uber, which is the example I'm going to use throughout the term, the core at Uber is that the people who drive for Uber are a series of contractors who work on a percentage of the takings. That's how they've chosen. They haven't chosen to employ a whole bunch of people. They've chosen just to focus on Uber being the app that people use on their smartphones and the driving of the cars being separate. So you're looking at how does the organisation I'm studying, how are they managing people? I think this will be the briefest of the three sections. You're just going to look at some key points around it. Marketing, you can expand a whole lot more. Operations management, you can expand a lot more as well. I think the key elements you might be looking at include how you're going to recruit. How does the organisation recruit? Are there any special things that they do when they're employing people? Are there exciting things around the pay and conditions in the organisation? What is done to motivate the workforce? How do you communicate in the organisation? Is there something innovative there? How do you get staff input? Does the organisation do something to get staff input? And does it, what's the culture like? We talked about culture a fair bit in term one. So what's the culture of the organisation like? So if we think about these things in turn, recruiting. Right? This is an important part of running a business. It's how do we find the best people for the business? Right? So is there something your organisation does that's special in the recruitment process, right? Is there an intern program they use? Do they do some special testing of applicants? Is there some training that people get? Is there a special induction program that's worth commenting on? So how does the organisation go about recruiting the best people? Motivational strategies. Are there special pay or conditions, right? Probably the famous one around this is Google. They have an extraordinary range of things that happen at work for people, from having access to healthcare through to having people to do the washing for them. And so it's a really big part of the thing. Is there a way for people to take on extra responsibility? How do they get advancement through the firm? Is there some flexibility? Do people have the opportunity to work at home or take more holidays? Stuff like that. How is the job put together? They're the things that you might be looking at for motivational strategies around your firm. Okay, how do you communicate? A lot of businesses pride themselves on the way they communicate with their employees. So is there something innovative? Is there a intranet which has message boards that get looked at over by the CEO? So is there something around communication that's important to the business you're studying? Have they got a special way of getting employee input? Do they have special team meetings? Do they set time aside for employees to put together new ideas? 3M used to do that. Give employees part of every week to spend some time researching new ideas. And then, if they found a new idea that went into production, they give employees a percentage of the profit. So those things are really interesting. Now we come to corporate culture. Hopefully you guys are a little bit familiar with corporate culture. But this is something that a lot of you should be thinking about with your organisation, because this is a source of competitive advantage in a lot of new organisations. So it describes the shared values and beliefs of the people working in an organisation. So they might be that this is a caring organisation, or this is an organisation that generates new ideas, or this is an organisation where everyone gets on in a very informal way. These things are important. It's about what's important for people in their organisation and how things work. So there are some different organisational cultures there. Customer focused, might be particularly ethical, might be environmentally aware, like a sustainable focus. So some of the ways you might observe in your organisation, some of the ways they might talk about corporate culture being observed is how do the managers go about working the organisation? What is the attitude of management to staff? Are managers like at the same level of staff? Do they work to get on with them? Do they make sure there's a small gap or not? Maybe they're very much in the big fancy office in the corner, don't speak to staff. How well does the company treat customers? And even the style of dress will give you an idea of how formal or informal an organisation is. So there's some of the indicators that you might look for. And some of the strategies your business might have used to manage their corporate culture, right? But we provide an example of the culture that they want. So do managers do the same thing they expect the people working in the organisation to do? Do they reward appropriate actions? How well have they recruited people that suit the culture? How well do they train? And do they have special ways of communicating the corporate culture? Two theories, okay, that you might use to apply to our model. Okay, the first is this ERG. E stands for existedness, R for relatedness, and G for growth. And what it means is that all these things are really important to us. So if you look at E's, existedness is about our physical needs and safety. So does the organisation provide those things? So you can put some comments on that. Relatedness. Is there a way that there's a sense of belonging in this organisation? And growth. Are people in the organisation confident they're doing interesting work, improving and achieving? Right. Another model you could use is this idea of maintenance factors and motivational factors. Maintenance factors is things like pay and job security. So how well does an organisation look after those? And motivational factors, they're things like achievement and quality of work and recognition and responsibility. Right, so these notes will all be up on Sector. Two other things I wanted to show you from an HR situation that you could do. One of them is this, right? The organisational structure is an important part of a human resource part of the firm. Maybe there's something interesting in the structure that's done. Maybe it's a very, very flat structure. It only has a few number of people who report, those sort of things. So that might be something there. You might look at that. And the other thing I wanted to do was just give you an example of how the Maslow hierarchy of needs, which is very similar to the ERG. So this is more existence is these first two, relatedness and growths. And it gives some workplace examples. So that's how you might put together a table that you could use to analyse your own business. As I said, I think this is the smallest of the elements. But have a think about how your business goes about managing their people, and particularly looking at are there strengths and weaknesses in the way that they do it. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about that?
So
Josie, yeah.
So